Hi, this is Dandan at DG Recruit. Today I wanted to share with you some ideas about success in recruitment as it relates to focusing on the journey, not the result. In this business, we always focus on the result because it is all about production. It's all about billing. It's all about what you can achieve. It's all about setting targets and achieving those targets. So a lot of times in the journey to becoming a successful recruiter, we are so over-focused on the result that we may actually be missing the trick when it comes to getting there. Because if you're always focused on the end result where you're like, I got to hit this month. And if you miss that target every single month, it's very easy to get distracted, demotivated, upset, and certainly just overwhelmed by how far behind you actually are. So a few ways to really dispel these notions is, number one, to understand that recruiting is never linear. It's never linear. You may be targeted with certain activities per week, per month, but the reality is when you get to the success, it will really look more like an exponential curve where like month 1 through month 6 to maybe even month 8, you'll do 0 deals, 0, right? I once had a colleague who did 0 deals for 8 months, but then was the top biller the second year, right? So everybody has a different trajectory. And you can't be really, number 2, benchmarking yourself against everybody else. So this idea of competition can be very, very toxic in that sense, where you feel like, oh man, everybody else is getting it. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. And then the self-doubt then seeps in, whereas really you just needed more time to get to where you needed to go because all the seeds that you were sowing need time to progress into a tree. Right? But instead of waiting for the tree to grow, you're looking at everybody else's trees going, well, their trees are so much bigger. Problem must be me. It must not be the soil, must not be the water, it must be that I, as a gardener, am just a bad gardener. So maybe I should just peace out. Right? So again, you're not letting nature also take its course through practice and curation. Right? So competitiveness can actually be distracting and unhelpful if you let it get to that point and have the opposite intended consequence and result of motivating you and helping drive best practices. The next point I wanted to make about focus on the experience, not so much the result, is to get to the result, you need to constantly improve your technique. Right? So if you're so focused on the result, you're going to be looking behind your shoulder. Did I hit it? Did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? You're focusing on the wrong thing versus, hey, how could I have done that better? Where did the issue go wrong? What could have happened, right? Instead of analyzing, a lot of times people who are overly driven by the result just go, well, this month, they keep attributing to the result to something that isn't the correct causation. Right? So they may be spending their time like dragging themselves down and beating themselves up over something that ultimately isn't the root cause. Right? The root cause could have been, hey, your downspeak sucks and you sound like a timid 15-year-old. Right? It could be, hey, you did not sell that job well at all. It wasn't that the candidate sucked or the client sucked. It was that you missed something along the process, right? So it's so easy to attribute mistakes and things falling through to the wrong thing if you're always focused on the end result and you're like, this candidate didn't decide to move forward. It must have been because of X, right? It's too short-term thinking, right? Which is the last point. When you're overly focused on short-term results, you lack long-term, mid-term thinking, right? Like when I got into the business, I knew that it was going to be an exponential situation, right? I knew, oh, it's going to take me 3 to 4 months to build this thing. But once I build it, month 6, month 7, month 8, year 2, year 3, those are going to be the real killer years. Because at that point, I'll know everybody and I'll have a really good reputation. Everybody's going to be friends with me. It's going to be so much fun. So I could see that progression, right? And when I first started, I was motivated by all the competition, seeing the success around me, just reiterating the fact that, hey, it's going to work out. But because I had that long-term vision driving me, I never sacrificed, for the most part, I never sacrificed too much for the short term, because I knew short-term things don't really matter. Right? Like, I don't have to squeeze a candidate to do X, Y, and Z in the short term, because long term, that's not going to do me any good. Right? I always had a long-term view on my business, because I knew, hey, I like this business model. This business model makes so much sense. It's so lucrative. It's so fun. It makes, like, commercially, it's like a very obvious, simple business model. I'm talking direct hire specifically too. And I was like, you know, I just need time to build it out and to establish myself and to really be friends with everybody and not to burn bridges that don't unnecessarily need to be burned. And of course, the people that I didn't like, I would make it very clear and say, you know, we're not going to work together ever. We're not going to do business, right? So that was fine, because again, you need to draw your line in the sand. You need to build your network. You need to build your alliances. Who are you going to take on and who are you not? Because in this business, you're going to have friends and enemies, right? So you want to choose your friends and enemies wisely so that you can build a strong business for the long term instead of sacrificing short-term gain for long-term pain. What does that mean? Signing on bad clients, right? When we first start a market, that's inevitable. You're just starting out. You don't know what you're doing. So in the beginning, you are totally given a pass when you sign on bad clients. But once you're established and you're signing on bad clients that you know are like not great people, not great businesses, the only thing they have going on is, you know, maybe money and some BS like marketing, right? Like, fine. You got to think, like, is that really good for your network? And if you are to take on that client, which you're totally available to take, is that going to help your business ultimately? Is that the kind of business you want to build? And would it make sense to lose that bad client as a poaching site? I don't know. You got to weigh all these options. There's no right or wrong answer, but you do need to make the right decision for your market, for your business, for your billing benefit, right? For your business operationally, what works better. I hope these kind of gave you some ideas about what to focus on as you're building your recruitment career. And I hope that you can reach out to me if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions or ideas for videos and discussions that we can have next.